meeting for the town of South Windsor on Tuesday, May 3, 2022. Our agenda is in two parts. We have a public hearing with two items, and then we have a regular meeting. At this point, we will start the public hearing, and I'll ask the secretary to read the two notices.
The first one is legal notice, Town of South Windsor, proposed revisions to apartment development sewer rates. Pursuant to Chapter 103, Section 7-255 of the Connecticut State Statutes, notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Water Pollution Control Authority will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Madden Room of Town Hall, located at 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, to revise the WPCA regulations and establish sewer user rates for apartment developments calculated on a fixed per unit basis or by total water use, whichever is greater. Copies of said proposed rates are available for review in the town clerk's office in the Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written comments by the public will be received. Stephen Wagner, Chairman, Water Pollution Control Authority. The second one is Town of South Windsor, a legal notice. Proposed budget and sewer user rate schedule for fiscal year 2022-2023. Pursuant to Chapter 103, Section 7-245 through 7-255 of the Connecticut General Statutes, notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Water Pollution Control Authority will hold a public meeting on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Madden Room of Town Hall to present the proposed water pollution control budget and to establish proposed sewer user rates, surcharges, sewer assessment schedules, septic disposal fees, and sewer user charge discount rates for qualified income residents for the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. This information is available April 18th, 2022 for review in the town clerk's office in the Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut. You may also view this information online at https://www.southwindsor-ct.gov/water-pollution-control-authority. Any appeals from such charges must be taken within 20 days after such filing. Stephen Wagner, Chairman, Water Pollution Control Authority.
Thank you very much. So we now will have the hearing regarding the change to our regulations that primarily change the way in which we will be billing apartments. However, there are a number of other changes in the regulations that are actually just documenting the way we have always, recently in the last few years, actually billed various types of users. So I have in my hand a copy of Section 16, and I'd like to go through the changes one line at a time.
That's a draft.
So there's one change that should be in red that isn't. QT, on the second page, we've added the phrase sum of Q0 for all users. So what Q0 is in the formula for calculating the rates is the flow that we assume for a given user. It's either the assumed discharge for our uniform rate users or it's a measured or minimum discharge for other users. That's actually new language as well. Again, this is how we've always done things. This is sort of putting it into the regulations so everybody reading these can understand how things are done. The QT has always been defined as a total annual industrial, commercial, and residential discharge in gallons, but that discharge is really the billable discharge, which is the sum of Q0. So remember that for houses, we currently base Q0 on 79,000 gallons a year. Those change in the next public hearing. And then under section B, residential user charges, we've added, well, the first paragraph, I'll read the whole paragraph. There shall be a uniform rate for each dwelling unit in single and multifamily residential buildings and residential condominiums based on a uniform assumed discharge. If an accessory apartment is present, the main dwelling and the accessory apartment are charged as separate dwelling units. Group homes are charged as single family dwellings. In-law apartments within a dwelling are not considered separate dwelling units. Again, that's exactly how we've calculated the charges in the past. Number two, a resident subject to a sewer user charge and found to be eligible by the Town of South Windsor Human Services Department for property tax relief. Actually, this paragraph didn't change, did it, Tony?
B2 did, no, I was gonna, mention that, sorry,
Okay. And then under C, paragraph 1, that hasn't changed. Discharge into the sewer system is calculated on water usage from January 1 through December 31, billed by the facility's water company the previous year. And then paragraph 2, the owner may seek approval to install and maintain at their own expense a meter measuring sewage outflow. Said meter shall be installed in a place easily accessible to the authority or its duly authorized agent for recording purposes. The owner is required to provide to the town in January of each year a written report of the meter readings for the preceding calendar year. Said report must be provided no later than the final business day in January to have the meter readings used in arriving at the sewer user charge. Now, there was different wording in here that was kind of complicated and hard to understand, so we replaced that.
yeah, there's, some of this language, or the majority of the language for that paragraph is pulled from, section D, industrial surcharges, or, the industrial section, because we treat industrial and commercial the same.
And number 3, in the case where the owner is approved to install and maintain at their own expense a meter used for the purpose of measuring water not discharged to the sewer system, the owner is required to provide to the town in January of each year a written report of the meter readings for the preceding calendar year. Said report must be provided no later than the final business day in January to receive credit and arriving at the sewer user charge. So an example where that would apply is, let's say they're filling a sewer.
I got a question about the meter. Is there a specified, are there more than one meter in this business?
What we do is the water meter, so again, this is out of we took that from the industrial side, it's basically for irrigation meters, so.
Is it one manufacturer, is it Chevy, Ford, and
We
Chrysler?
just go by water meter, and as long as it's installed by a licensed plumber, we inspect it to make sure that it's
Measures
installed
correctly. I mean,
correctly, and,
The old
yeah,
con, I only use 3 gallons and 30 million went
exactly,
through.
yeah, so, yeah, we make sure, we have them installed.
Small towns are easy to beat, that's why,
Yeah, yep,
Okay, yeah, so this would be for irrigation, or I don't know if it's, another type of facility, maybe they have a swimming pool or something that they're filling, that kind of thing.
the larger facilities have a direct meter, which is going directly into the sewer line.
Okay.
So they'll have a process meter and a sewer meter.
Which is covered back
Is
in
it input and
paragraph 2.
output?
Yeah,
So the Carlos Pasta has a sewage meter,
correct.
as an example. Okay, and that would be covered in paragraph 2. Okay, so this is the change. Excuse me. Rental apartment developments, user charges are calculated based on the measured water consumption or outflow, subject to a minimum per apartment unit. Common areas such as clubhouses and offices at present are charged as a single unit in calculating the minimum. So this is basically what we voted on at the last meeting to include in this change. And we will have a different minimum for apartments, or potentially have a different minimum for apartments than we do for single-family houses or other industrial commercial sites. But the minimum is calculated based on the number of units rather than just the total flow into the facility.
So it's units flow, okay.
And number 5, this just clarifies what this does not apply to: institutional residence facilities such as independent living facilities, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes, User charges are calculated based on facility measured water consumption, subject to a minimum similar to other commercial and industrial facilities. Now, these are all so big that the minimum is going to apply to them, so they're basically being charged based on their total water usage. All other commercial and industrial users, user charges are calculated based on measured water consumption or discharge, subject to a minimum consumption or discharge. So that's the change. We would at this point invite members of the public to speak. Is there any member of the public here that would like to speak? The answer is no. What about, I'll ask our town staff, do you have any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. And then members of the commission, and we'll start with Jim.
So what?
Do you have any comments? Or
Yeah, on these, do other towns have similar ones like this? Do you compare them?
We don't necessarily compare,
No?
but, you know,
But
we
you
do
get
talk
enough
with
in the
other
game.
towns and just kind of
But we don't do a visual just to see if we're in the game.
in more, for billing.
Billing,
Or-
just for the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, we talk with other towns and, you know, we bounce things off people, just get other ideas on, you know, for instance, we had a town call us today to see how our billing is structured and,
Who called?
it was another town,
What town? Is it Connecticut?
Windsor Locks.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Heavy
We spoke to
industrial.
them today, yeah, so,
Heavy industrial compared to us.
yeah, I'm not sure, yeah, I would guess driving through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big buildings there.
yeah, so.
the statute that we're developing these regulations on allows a wide range of methods of calculating the bill. You can base it on the number of bedrooms, you can base it on the number of toilets, you can base it on any number of things, and this would certainly fall under
That
that.
state statute, 7-255.
Well, the statute that we're under, yeah. So,
Chapter 103.
some towns actually bill on water use. We've discussed that several times and decided that was a nightmare administratively, so we're not billing on actual water use for single-family houses, for example. We did look at the water use people have on average, which we discussed at the last meeting.
Did the town attorney review this?
Not this section, but we used a lot of the same language from the
He hasn't
industrial.
he hasn't reviewed it, so.
No,
And Mike,
Well, just to follow up on that, is that typical? I mean, does some attorney normally review these changes or not?
You don't
If it
sit in
was-
court and a guy, you know.
yeah, it's something we can certainly do.
No, I'm asking what's the norm been up to today, not
So a lot of,
make a new requirement.
Yeah. It's gonna cost more money, I mean, attorneys, not for free.
it depends what the regulation changes. If it's, you know, for instance, a couple years ago, we had a very in-depth change. It was more like on a calculation of benefit assessments. So we were working with the attorney at that point. For these changes, like I said, I pulled a lot of that from the industrial section. So it just moved up and changed it to the commercial, to fit the
more-
commercial.
Sounds like you're saying more minor changes.
This was
You
more,
normally just gin them up yourself, and if there's no controversies raised, we don't pursue any other
right,
review.
right. Yeah, this just tweaked it to make it fit the commercial side of things, and then we outlined the apartments.
Is the commercial based on a standard? When you refer to the commercial, is it,
So we have commercial industry, or commercial accounts and industrial accounts. Essentially, they're billed the same. The only thing in the regulations that, the big difference is an industrial account, they're required to have a monitoring manhole.
yeah.
Where the
right,
commercial side
Yeah.
doesn't. But yeah, so some of our commercial buildings, they have, called, I wanna say, deduction meters for like the irrigation, so we'll do that for commercial and
Okay.
industrial. We didn't have a commercial section in this, so that's what we're adding, and we're just reusing the same language from the industrial.
I don't have any other questions.
okay, Bala?
Yeah, just one question about the apartments, the
Mhm.
billing wise, what if the tenant changes and all? How that will,
So it's gonna be billed with we bill apartments as commercial, we're gonna continue to do so.
Right.
So it's gonna be, and we send the bill to the owner of the property,
okay,
so we don't have to deal with each independent
Please.
person.
Yeah.
yeah,
So we just send it to one person,
Holy
and it's gonna be based on,
Hire a
the
collection
proposed
guy.
is 50% of the residential rate
Right.
for each unit. Or if for whatever reason the flow jumps way up, then we'll bill on minimum flow.
okay,
Yeah,
so,
Or water flow in that case,
yeah.
water usage, yeah.
okay. So,
There'd have to be a drastic increase in flow.
okay. And then,
Anything else?
just one more question,
Sure.
sorry about that, like the vacant apartments, so that was discussed or?
We have the number of apartments at each property, so for instance, we have industrial condominiums. We don't know if it's occupied or not,
Okay,
but they're billed
To the owner.
for that unit because they have the opportunity to use the sewer. Again, we don't track who's in and out, so
okay,
services provided.
Carol?
that's
I
all,
have no
yeah.
questions.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Does anybody see any reason to keep the public hearing open? In which case,
I propose a motion that we close the
Second.
public meeting.
Second.
very good, second, all in favor of
You have to
closing
wait
the
till I
meeting?
make the motion.
Okay, so the
Get
public
business
hearing,
done. Gotta get business
the
done.
first public hearing is now closed at 7:17. And now we move on to the second public hearing, which is basically establishing the rates, sewer user rates. And there's two changes here. No, there are three changes relative to last year. First of all, we've changed the residential single-family condominium unit from $4.15 per unit to $4.25 per unit. The apartment minimum is set at $2.12 per unit,
And 50 cents.
and that's 50% of the single family and condominium. And then the commercial industrial business is set at $4.25 per 74,000 gallons. And the minimums, where are the minimums in here?
For flow?
Yeah.
It was on the commercial industrial line you read. It's $4.25 per 74,000 gallons.
Yeah, but if they're below 74,000 gallons,
They would be billed the $4.25.
okay, but is that, I guess, I should have reviewed this one carefully. We should add, subject to a minimum,
Okay, we can, yeah.
okay,
How do you, okay, so just subject to minimum,
74,000 gallons. Yeah. And I think with the language we finally put in the apartment thing, talked about the $2.25 per unit being a minimum. So there, it's, how do I want to say that? $4.25 per 70,000 gallons, subject to a minimum of $212.50 per unit.
Say that again.
Okay. Everybody's being billed based on 74,000 gallons.
Yep.
Okay, however, there are minimums, that apply to commercial, which is $4.25, and for apartments is $212.50.
So if they're under 74, they don't get they still pay they pay the minimum, that's like a minimum tax.
Yeah, now we know that they're not gonna come anywhere close to 74,000 gallons, but that's the way we worded the regulations, so,
For the commercial.
for the apartments.
Apartment, no, you never get.
Yeah, they're running around 20,000,
Yeah.
okay?
this is similar to the industrial condominiums.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know who's in there, so
Right.
may have a tenant that doesn't use a lot of water, so we just build them the minimum for the unit, which is, $4.15 this year. If they switch tenants, they get a high water user, and then suddenly the water goes up. We would bill them, you know, they're over 74,000 gallons, we'd bill them whatever their water usage was.
Right.
So are there any other changes here? I think these are pretty much the same numbers.
I have one question, Steve,
Oh.
if I could, real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
The 425 per 74,000 gallons for the industrial, you know, I get the minimum, you pay that up to 74, but beyond that, is it, when you go to 74,001 gallon, what
It's-
happens?
You get charged the gallon. Which
So
is like
it is, so it's
0.00.
426.
prorated. That's all I just wanted to understand.
So
yeah.
on their bill, it'll say 0.00523 per gallon, and then it has their gallon usage.
I just want to make sure it wasn't another 425 when you got one gallon.
No,
over.
yeah,
I
no, we
didn't
don't do
think
the.
so, but I just wanted to
the line,
clarify.
no.
Thanks.
Bing.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
I'm good.
We should consider, you know, if we're trying to make some more money.
Think about that way.
Thank you for that question. That was a good question. So let's see. Paula, any questions or comments?
I'm fine, thank you.
Gerald,
That's fine.
any other comments from the public?
No, they're out.
Okay.
Oh, they're still in.
All right.
Well, they can.
Anybody see a reason to keep the public hearing open?
No.
No.
Make a motion to close it.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed at 7:22. Thank you. And now, with the consensus of the group, I'd like to change the order of the meeting in order to have our executive session at the beginning, so our guest can leave. So we need a motion to enter executive session in order to discuss cybersecurity measures, and we need to include in attendance Scott
Scott Roberts, yep.
Roberts and
Mike Wood.
and
Yeah, I don't know if,
Caitlin will have to,
I don't know if Mike needs to be,
Does he have a secret
he
clearance?
can be, it's part of the
well, I
cybersecurity.
mean, I actually have some questions for how that works out on a
Oh, okay.
personal performance basis, so it's actually good that he's here. And of course, our superintendent is here. So we need a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion, go into executive.
Seconded.
Oh.
Who, me?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Caitlin will leave. And we've now entered executive session at 7:23, and we'll come rescue you.
Caitlin, you can hang out with Mike Lehman.
Yep.
Because then you'll have a really good clue when
Sounds like a
you won't be
plan.
to hear us, but you'll be able to see us moving.
Okay.
And if you could close the door.
Is it film off?
Oh, then
Recording? Film off?
No, I'll find out.
we've asked the IT department to come in and talk to us about security at our cybersecurity at our sewer plant. This is strictly a matter of due diligence on the part of the authority. We have no reason to believe there are any issues. So I just wanna make sure the public is aware that, we're doing that as just part of our regular, due diligence and maintaining the plant.
You're protecting an investment, I mean, it's as simple as that.
So, continuing on, we have minutes, dated April 5, 2022 to approve. I personally reviewed them, and was happy with them.
So I make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Any changes or corrections or anybody wants?
We'll just give another quick look at
That's the
it.
English major's gonna look at it.
Give you a second if you need it.
I'm good.
Everybody ready? Okay. Take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No, I abstain.
Okay, so Carol Frederick is abstaining because you weren't there. Okay. And the minutes are approved. See nothing under new business. We have a superintendent report.
Steve Wagner, for the energy consumption report. Steve Wagner is, part of the energy committee as well. At the meeting, he reported that the sewer system electrical consumption increased by 11% since 2012, and that influent flows increased by 44%, and that netted a 23% decrease in our kilowatt hours per million gallons. So we're upgrading our three largest pump stations, and with those upgrades, we should see a further decreases in electrical consumption.
Also the UV system, right?
Correct. Yep. The UV should have a big impact as well on that. Thank you for bringing that up.
And that's separate from we talked about the variable frequency controls that we are putting off. So this is separate, you're getting efficiencies separate from that.
Right. We've upgraded, some of it's minimal, but we've upgraded a lot of the lighting to LED. We've installed VFDs. We've taken other measures to try to save electricity with different pump styles and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Good.
So we're seeing a decrease over the last 10 years. The Osha consultation. Osha offers a consultation service to review department safety policies, working environments, and compliance violations. So essentially, we invite them in. We're doing it department-wide as the Department of Public Works. They were at the town garage for, I think they were there for close to a year, maybe longer. So it's very in-depth. They come in maybe 3 or 4 times a year, they walk, tour the facility, look at our policies, give us areas that we need to improve, we make those improvements. They review that to make sure that we're in compliance. So while we're doing this, the facility isn't cited. It's just recommended upgrades. It's a good opportunity to meet with OSHA, make sure we're in compliance, find where our vulnerabilities are, and improve them without being fined. The odor control study, that was performed last summer. Ty and Bond was the engineer that performed the study. They conducted an odor control study to identify sources of odor at the facility and surrounding area, to address odor complaints from neighboring properties. The study evaluated the performance of the existing system and provided recommendations for improvement. The final report was submitted in March, and Ty and Bond is scheduled to present at our next WPCA meeting in June. The treatment plant, we continue to have a 98 treatment efficiency. The maintenance department has been working on preparing for the disinfection season. The weirs have been cleaned, weirs and channels have been cleaned. They've been installing different components and testing the system. We did find one issue this week that has since been repaired, I believe, right?
Yes.
It's being repaired.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll be in good shape. I'm sorry, that was last week. Apologize. Where was I? And then collection systems, we've been performing the annual generator maintenance, annual inspection of the Avery Street pumps and application of a ceramic coating to the volute and impellers of our pumps. And that's just to extend the service life. It's a relatively new product to us. We typically send it out for ceramic coating. We're doing this in-house with a product that we found, so it's kind of we're gonna see how that works out. With the capital improvement projects, we have the pump station upgrades. I just received the 60% design from Arcadis. So that's been submitted to us for staff review. And we're gonna have our staff review the plans and just take a look and, you know, get their perspective and from a maintenance perspective as well. We'll take that feedback and then put that into the 90% design. We're also scheduling pre-application meetings with DEEP and pre-permitting meetings with other town departments. The irrigation weir gate, finance has opened the project account and has applied the money, so we're gonna start working on that. With the ARPA funding, Phase 4, Green Mountain has begun the CCTV inspection and pipe cleaning to prepare for lining. With the UV disinfection upgrade, I don't have anything new to report at this time. Clark Street bypass valve, VMS was on site April 11th to dig a test pit. And the excavation took a little longer than anticipated. So their as-built plans, what was in the ground was different from the as-built plan. And this is one reason we do the test dig, to get eyes on what we're actually gonna be encountering. Well, they got the measurements they needed. We saw what we needed to see, so we're gonna be they're gonna be ordering the material, and we'll get that project moving shortly. Finally, for the collection report, collector of revenue is reporting 96.99% collection rate on the residential side for the current grand list, and on the commercial side, 89.7%. Alias tax warrants were issued in April and are being renewed for May. The demand intent to lien notices will be mailed by May 31st, and liens will be placed July 1st for unpaid accounts. Any unpaid accounts by July will also be turned over to the state marshal for collection. That concludes my report. I can take any questions.
I do have one.
Okay.
Just really simply, the odor testing that was done, is that, do they have experts, or is that done with electronic devices of some sort?
Yes,
How do you actually measure
it's both. They have meters that'll record that. We've looked into purchasing them, but they're $15,000 we got quoted. I didn't think that was appropriate at this time, so we've been actually using our meters that we have that measure in parts per million, not parts per billion. So we've been metering a lot of our tanks, just to really pinpoint the source. The study was more of a general overview, and we kind of know where our issues are. But yeah, I'm sorry, to answer your question, I was getting off on a tangent, but to answer your question, yes, they have a expensive meter. They walk around on the outside of the treatment plant, Main Street area. And then they also have people that are trained smellers, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Like a wine taster?
So, right, and they can go and they can smell.
Essence of,
how you learn to do that job?
They're trained,
Yeah.
they can smell agriculture, they can smell sewage, they can, I think,
If we didn't have a dog,
I-
do
there's
that.
some restaurants that they picked up from Main Street.
That's why I had a related question. Is the odor seasonal or settlements,
we've-
more order?
So
or-
when we get complaints, we document them. We've been compiling that data, but from the people we speak to, it is a consistent odor from the treatment plant.
It's like a seasonality factor is there, or like winter
Right.
or holidays?
So what? No, it's consistent. We get consistent reports.
Yeah.
We do respond. We have operators go to the treatment plant. We have a deodorizer that we set up. We try to make some certain different adjustments, and it just got to the point we needed a study to pinpoint what the issue was. I shouldn't say a pinpoint, but to look at the way we're handling our odor control system versus, we kind of wanted to figure out, is it in the plant or is it outside the plant? So it's what we're working on, and they provided some recommendations for improvement. For instance, the biofilter is short circuiting, so it's not as efficient as it could be. The main source of odor at the treatment plant is the sludge storage tanks, so we've been taking a closer look at that. So we've made some adjustments, and it seems to help bring the odors down a little bit. Although we did get one complaint last week. So we're still working on it.
I assume we're gonna be handing out that actual report as part of the packet for next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yep.
But I have read the report, it was pretty impressive. I mean, they even documented, every time they did an observation, they documented which way the wind was going, and then they did their observations downwind in whatever direction. It could have been north, it could have been, the people who live near the plant are more to the east, but if the wind is blowing to the north, they went north and documented it. And then I gotta say, the odors the types of odors they documented were, I was kind of amazing. I mean, you got, manure being spread on a farm. It'd be interesting to see if our residents observe the odor the same way, whether they are as sensitive to what type of odor they're getting. Are we getting complaints that are actually agricultural odor, for example? I don't know if you.
That's great.
Right.
The same people you get the same people doing the same, like the boo birds, the same people complain, or is it the same group, or?
Yes.
random?
No, so there is typically one person who is in contact with Jeff LeMay. They contact with cell phone, so she'll text him,
It
you know,
smells.
there's
It's the
odors
same
today,
person.
yeah.
It's the same person.
There's odors tonight. 'Cause a lot of it's off hours, I shouldn't say a lot of it, but it's off hours sometimes, so he's getting that live feedback, and then we'll have operators respond and
It's
So
right
she's
near the plant-
also-
right near the plant, right?
She's also the coordinator for the other people, so I think they contact her and then she contacts you.
Right, she's become kind of the lead spokesperson of the group that I'm in contact with the email chain.
Any other questions about the superintendent's report? Okay. Now I've lost my agenda. Here we go. Public participation, we have no members of the public, so move on. Bills, change orders and disbursements, nothing listed. So we now have the unfinished business. The way we set up the schedule is we plan to have the public hearing in May and then vote on the actual rates, and in this case also the revisions. Vote on the rates in June, in case there are public comments. Now, we didn't get any public comments. I'm a little uncomfortable going ahead with the vote since two of our members are not here. But on the other hand, I won't be here in June, so if anybody wants to have any further discussion of those two items.
Yeah, for me, just for sake of transparency regarding the budget, we put in $200,000 for the upgrade for the odor control for this year, and that's gonna it's gonna cover the engineering and materials, doesn't cover installation. The estimate from the engineer from the study was $480,000 to upgrade the biofilter. So I don't know what the authorities, after hearing the study presentation, and I don't know what the feedback from the public's gonna be. I mean, we are trying to make adjustments, process control adjustments to help keep odors down. So I'm curious, we just started that last week, so I'm kinda curious what that's gonna be over the next, 3 or 4 weeks. See if it really makes a big difference. So I just wanted to point that out, that the plan was to get the engineering done for the biofilter, because we do it, like I said, it's short circuiting, so there's gonna have to be some work done. So I'll do the engineering and the materials, and then the following fiscal year, which we've done in the past, we can just lump it into one project, but we can fund the second portion of that for the installation essentially in fiscal '24. So I just wanted to make the authority aware of that.
So next month, will not be a public hearing, it will just be a matter of voting on the budget and the rates and this change to our regulations. So if they come in and have complaints about the budget, we've already had the public hearing. So it's really a discussion and a report and an opportunity to hear from them.
So,
Any other discussion on these, on item G? And actually, the calculation of the sewer rates is actually at the back of your budget. So they're showing what it takes to live with $425, 74,000 gallons. That's right at the back. I thought it was at the back.
Second from the back.
Second. Papers sticking together, that was my problem.
Oh, the next, I think the next to the last page.
Yeah, next to the last page, if you can get the paper to come apart. We have now updated the commercial input using the best available data, which is this past season, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
You used the 2022 bill for the commercial part of this calculation.
Yeah, the commercial flow is an estimate. Typically take the average of, 3 years and then
Okay, all
build
right.
in a little bit of question.
All right, anything else?
I'm good. I do just have one question for Tony, one more of a general nature. Well, it's financial, but now, you previously talked, some dump fees have gone up. We're obviously, looks like we're in kind of an inflationary period. Are you seeing any, aside from the kind of inflation that you're sort of expecting, a little higher dump fee here, those kind of things, is there anything that's emerging that you're starting to see that might be like of concern? Is there anything that's looking like it might be kind of pop up out of nowhere? I'd hate for you to come into the board in 2 months and say, well, we got this new, $800,000 bill.
No,
Change your boom.
you're gonna make me say it, aren't you? I don't forecast anything at this point. The biggest thing was the sludge hauling and disposal. That was the big one. Fortunately, we bid it early enough to catch it, and because I did increase the budget, but clearly not enough. I had to put another $200,000 into the sludge hauling. So,
I'm just
as
thinking
far
more
as
from a
next
risk
year-
perspective, not trying to like
No,
catch you on anything.
no. Yeah, and with our projects, we're seeing delays in materials. We're seeing inflation with material costs and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
some of our costs have come back higher. For instance, the Clark Street project, that was estimated 8 months ago to be $100,000. It came back at $191,000.
Wow.
it was
It is pretty rough.
huge increase, right? So that's what we've seen. But we're starting to see, anticipate it and expect it at this point. The only surprises at this point would be, a collapse in sewer pipe. Well, we've done a good job getting eyes on the majority of the system at this point. We've been working on that for almost 3 years. So we've been through quite a bit of the system, a lot of the larger pipe where there's, that could be catastrophic if we lose a 30-inch pipe.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a big deal. If we lose an 8-inch pipe servicing a cul-de-sac, it's gonna upset. Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna do it, but if it's 10 homes versus 100, I'm gonna take the 10 homes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're working to those smaller pipes now, and we're just trying to find our vulnerabilities and where we need to improve.
How old are the pipes? Are they the original ones went in 60 years ago?
They were 1965 or 68 is the original, 64, okay. Majority of the pipes were put in the 70s, and that was with the Clean Water Act.
Yeah.
The government had a bunch of money, and that's where the sewer plants, pump stations, a lot of pipes went in. So a lot of people are in the same boat as we are. We're kind of in our rehabilitation state. Those pipes are reaching their life expectancy, and it's time to start rehabbing.
One more question, like the last 2 pages, right, the grand total, kind of, there is a difference, right? In that kind of scenario, if that is realized, where will that difference go?
So if we have excess revenue that goes into the replacement reserve, and that's by regulation of the authorities, rules and regulations. If we don't bring in enough, if our expenditures exceed revenue, then I'll come here asking the authority to transfer money. So we try not to do that. Yeah, in the past 3 years, we've actually brought in 5% more revenue on average, and our expenditures have been 2% below what we've budgeted. So we've been doing it good in that regard. A lot of the revenue is coming from delinquent fees. So those are starting to dwindle. Those are starting to come way down. They used to be close to I think over $800,000, and now they're about $150,000 in delinquent fees. So we're not going to have that cushion much longer, but that's something we keep an eye on.
So the reserve fund is something investment fund, or?
What's that?
The reserve fund is an investment fund, or?
Yeah, well, the reserve account we keep, the finance department manages that for us. And that's liquid assets that, if we do have a sewer collapse, we can cover that without, going up on rates.
It's liquid, okay.
Yeah. We also have another reserve, the capital reserve, that if there is gonna be a large purchase that we're aware of, or if rates are gonna go way up, we can draw from that account to help stabilize the sewer user rate.
Okay, thank you.
So at the very beginning, I don't know whether we were actually in the meeting or just before, but there was talk about people exchanging emails and realization by some of our members who aren't familiar with FOIA that that was a problem. I guess I'd just like to go over a little bit of what the rules are. Basically, because of the Freedom of Information Act, we have to publish agendas for all our meetings. Okay, we have to have minutes for the meetings, and they have to be filed, which creates a problem if you have a meeting that isn't published. Okay, that's part one. Okay, a meeting occurs.
That's a legal meeting.
What?
That's a legal meeting. That's a meeting with a notice.
An unnoticed meeting is a violation.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's other ways to have meetings besides getting together in person. Okay, one of the ways to have a meeting is to have an exchange of phone calls and emails and the like among the members outside of the regular meeting. So that's why we have to be very careful about communicating among ourselves, because once you send an email, I send an email to Mike, and Mike passes it on to Carol. Before you know it, you've got a quorum involved in this email sequence, okay? and that becomes a violation of the Freedom of Information Act. Now, you can communicate with the staff all you want, so feel free to send Tony an email.
He's excited to hear that.
He's
What
very,
you do.
very responsive, actually. But among ourselves, we have to be careful of not just having meetings together in person, but also having them by these backdoor methods, okay?
Right.
Now, on the other hand, if we all wanted to get together to have I don't know, a holiday dinner, as long as we don't discuss business, that's allowed. So, but in general, we have to be careful about creating meetings when we didn't think we were creating meetings.
Yeah.
If we have like a subcommittee that is gonna go off and study how we bill nursing homes, okay? As long as they don't form a quorum, we're okay. But once they form a quorum, we have to, that has to be noticed and it has to be a regular meeting. So there are two ways to have meetings. We have a published schedule. As long as we adhere to the schedule, we've done sufficient notice by publishing the schedule back in January. We have a special meeting that has to be noticed within, 24 hours, at least 24 hours before.
Special meeting is 24.
Yeah. The one other kind of meeting you can have is an emergency meeting, like if the sewer plant collapsed and you needed to get together with us to make a decision, we could have an emergency meeting and there are rules for how that's handled, but hopefully we'll never have to deal with that technicality. So, I don't know if there's anything
All
else.
right, thanks, that's helpful.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
absolutely. Feel free to reach out. Yeah, a lot of it is with attendance, and yeah, you can just reply to myself or Heather or both of us, and just, we'll be here. So, yeah.
Okay. The one other kind of meeting that's allowed with a quorum is called a caucus. So if all the Republicans, it has to be a party thing. So if all the Republicans want to get together and discuss what they're going to do, that's legal, regardless of whether that creates a quorum. Likewise, the Democrats can do the same thing. So even if, we happen to have 4 Democrats right now, even if the 4 Democrats get together, as long as nobody else is involved in that meeting, literally nobody, you can have a caucus. All right. Don't have a lot of call for that, but
Yeah,
it is legal to have a caucus.
good to know.
Okay.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Can I just bring up something? Is it possible for us to send a card to Ether?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can. I'm gonna get a card. I'm just trying to think about signatures.
I'm just
Getting that through.
wondering about that,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we'll
All right, thank you.
we'll work. Yeah, we'll work on it.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Excellent.
That was very interesting about the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I'm really glad to hear the town is, kind of, toward the
That was
front edge.
executive session stuff, so we.
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Yeah, good point.
He's a staff of 4. There's only 4 IT people.
Oh. Well, yeah.
Important to be on top of it, I'll tell you.
They run around, I'll tell you that. No fun.